So it's an integrated solution. Basically what that means is that the inexperienced people, the gardeners, amateurs, they get interested really quickly and easily by projects. You know, they see a project and it looks really cool, they're interested in trying it out. And also because the project has a short timeline, they get satisfaction easily and they feel like they achieved something. And the projects would have like a list of Home Depot products so they can go ahead and buy those products. And the projects themselves will be uploaded by the experienced customers, and why would they use that? Well, they would put these projects up because they want to get points, because when they upload projects, they get points, and they can use those points to get maybe deals from Home Depot, coupons, things like that. And the solution to make it more symbiotic and more synchronized is it's an artificial intelligence-based solution. Basically, the projects are shown to the users based on season and weather. They're classified, and then they're further classified by user preferences. So, you know, based on the popularity of the projects. And through this, the community grows. So here's a quick look at the technologies used. Basically, directions to Home Depot, an indoor map of Home Depot, the artificial intelligence-based solution, and it's coded for the Windows Phone. So without further ado, I'll show you a demo of the app. So here's the app on a demo. So here's upcoming workshops. So if they want to maybe see how to install a ceiling fan, how to choose a countertop, they can go ahead and click one of these links and they can go ahead and see that. Or if they want, they can go to projects, and here's outdoors. So I'm going to click that. So here's project 1. Now if they're interested, they can look at instructions and they can see how to do that. Comments. If they want to see how much more further information about like a product, say twine, then they can go ahead and see that community insight, how much the price is, the exact brand name and things like that. And if they if they want to go, so now they're looking at this project. It looks really interesting. Now they want to get to Home Depot, the nearest Home Depot. So what they do is they click Drive, and they can go ahead and they're sent to basically a map, which is taking a little while to load. Yeah, so it takes them to a map, and you just click Start, and then it'll get you the directions, and it's a voice-based app, so you can get directions through voice, and it'll show you how to get there. And then when they're done there and they reach the place, now they want an indoor map because Home Depot is really large. So a lot of people, I mean, even me, I get lost when I go to Home Depot. So here's plumbing, lumber, and you can find out how to get to the specific areas. So there's a couple of other projects, but okay, yeah, really quickly. So I'm just going to go to the AI solutions part. So here what happens is so you're saying I want a project for the summer. And I think the weather right now is really hot. So what kind of project can I get? Oh, look, there's Father's Day. So maybe I can make a project for Father's Day. And, grill it. You want to make something for summer. Oh, look, red, white, and blue Flag Day for Flag Day. So maybe for July 4th, you can have a project. And then the last part of the feature is the community. And here, you have your point system. So if you upload a project, you get a lot of points. And if you complete a project, you get some points. And this basically makes this, a symbiotic kind of relationship between the two different types of customers. And then there's forums. And there's also deals, which is not coming, but basically the Home Depot can upload those deals. So yeah, thank you.
Outstanding. And we wanted to present you with a couple of other wins here, including there's your art and copy hack and your brand hacking, as well as, Fred, did you want to make a quick presentation? Fred Neal is the head of CRM at the Home Depot.
Thanks, Mark. Pretty big idea, isn't it? Isn't it amazing? Let's hear it again for Nive. Just real quick, as Mark had said earlier, we have an amazing high school student here. Mark and I went to Bellarmine down the street together, and we weren't thinking anything like this when we were back in high school quite a few years ago. Anyway, there's two awards that Nive had won. The top award was $8,000 for the #1 app, and we also had a kicker for $2,500 for the top garden club app. So She nailed it on both of those, and for that very reason, she got $10,500. So congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fred. And without any further ado, we'll head on back, and Mark Evans will bring you back to the regular scheduled program. Thank you.
Thank you, Nive. So I would like to go ahead and continue here with our keynote today. Emily White, she's the Director of Mobile Partnerships at Facebook. And she just met Nive backstage, and I think was quite impressed with her. So it's pretty exciting, these kind of serendipitous occasions that we have happening all around us. So, Emily, come on out. Thank you.
Nive's amazing, and I'm going to be working with her for someday. And she hopefully will end up this summer at Facebook. That's awesome. And I love to see women. There are like never enough women. Thank you. Never enough women. So thanks for having me here, you guys. I'm excited to be here. I was actually on the stage last year, I think it was, but I was talking about local at the time. And I was on a really fun panel. I was thinking about this last year, and now I'm actually working on mobile, and how much has changed in a year. Lots of change this year. But I was also thinking about how innovation at Facebook isn't actually necessarily about how to get the world to change faster or how to create the next new human interaction. It's actually so much about looking at the past and looking at the way the world works and making it so much simpler and easier and more shareable through creating products that feed into those interactions that we've been doing not just over the past year or will be doing in the next 10 years, but frankly, the same interactions that we've had over the last tens and thousands of years. And I'll go into what I mean by that. And I actually want to start with talking about when I was in college, 15 years ago, and what my experiences was like on the internet then. Does anyone recognize this? Is this like familiar to you guys? Yes? Good. I was feeling so old when I was to that 16-year-old. So this is DMOZ. Right, this is how people used to find information on the internet. This is actually a recent screenshot of DMOZ, and they have 95,000 editors at the bottom, which I thought was interesting. But the idea here is that the internet used to actually be small enough to hand categorize by a specific set of people. If I was interested in like finding out what was on the internet, I would go here and I would like click through something, can you guys still hear me? Okay. But something that was sort of akin to like the index of a book in some ways, right? So like a paradigm that we were familiar with. And the problem is that the internet grew and grew and grew. And in fact, when I graduated from college, effectively my first job was at this place, Google, where I spent my first 10 years of my career. And this is actually a screenshot from 1998, where they state that they have indexed 25 million pages, which seemed like a lot at the time, right? So Google came along and they said, you know, there's too much information hand indexed. This is not scalable. We have a better way of doing this. And lo and behold, it was an incredibly simple way of finding exactly what you were looking for, right? And it still is an incredibly effective way at finding what you're looking for. But the problem is that the internet has grown and grown and grown. In 2008, so 10 years after this screenshot was taken, Google started reporting 1 trillion pages indexed. And I don't even think they report this anymore. I think we've gotten past the stage of counting. There's so much information. And while I still use Google on a daily basis, it's not effective for everything in my life, right? So I have a 2-year-old son who's going to start preschool, and I want to figure out what the right program is for him. This is not the best place to find it anymore, right? In fact, I turn to the moms in my community and my parents' friends who know my child to give me advice on what would be good for my son, right? That concept has existed for a really long, long time, right? Before Google, I was still going to my mom and my friends to ask their advice. And now with the power of social, really, we have an opportunity to make that experience so much more scalable and surpass what I can do on the phone or in a face-to-face chat with someone. And this doesn't just apply to me looking for information. This actually applies to me looking at any information, anywhere I am in the world. So take this news experience, for example. Like with a 2-year-old running around and another one on the way, like my Sunday mornings reading the newspaper are long gone. I don't have 3 hours to read the Washington Post. And while I would love to find out everything that's happening in the world, I still rely on my friends. But now I can actually do this online in a really relatively short period of time, right? I can now see through the Washington Post social reader what my friends are reading now, what's trending now, what's relevant now. And it helps provide really a filter on how I spend my time that I find incredibly effective because it's so, so relevant. But frankly, just as you don't sit down at the evening, like the dinner table, and talk about like what you like and what you read, our interactions with people, again, that have been going on forever, aren't limited to those 2 categories either. And so at the end of last year, we launched something called the social graph, or the open web. I'm sorry, we launched the social graph a long time ago. And the idea here is that now there's this broad expanse of activities that we can share back in a really scalable way. So it's not just what you liked, what you read. It's what you're eating, what you're cooking, what mountain you're hiking, what you're looking for, what you're listening to. And these experiences all of a sudden come to life in a much, much richer way that help us figure out the things that we're going to be interested in that we may not even know about. And in some cases we do. Here's a couple of examples of the types of things that we show today as part of a profile. What games your friends are playing, what your friends are reading through Goodreads. I'll go into some more examples. But the conclusion here really is that the web is being rebuilt around people, right? Just as the world has always been rebuilt or built around people. But I'm actually not here to talk about the web today. I'm here to talk about mobile. And the reason that I moved over to mobile a year ago is because mobile is being rebuilt around people now. Now, the ironic thing here is that the mobile phone is probably the most social device that any of us have. And if someone makes us part from it, we get really mad. At least I do. It is like the most closely held member of my family that is not walking and breathing. And something that I rely on to do everything from wake me up in the morning to get me to work, to figure out in some cases what I even need to wear. And in that way, mobile is really Facebook's home. And what's so exciting is the number of things, the way that we can interact with the world through mobile now that social is being built. And I'm going to talk about some of those ways, and then I'm actually going to give you some really concrete examples of how that's happening today. So I have a baby due in 2 months. With my first son, I took photos every day for the first 3 months and emailed them to my in-laws. I will no longer be doing that. I will be taking photos and one click uploading them to my parents' Facebook group. I have my 9-year anniversary dinner with my husband on Thursday. I will be logging in, checking in, and sharing that experience in photos with our close friends and family. As I'm out and about over the weekend, like running errands, whatever it is, my phone will inevitably buzz telling me that a friend is nearby, and my afternoon of like maybe doing something by myself will turn into an activity with a friend. And with that, with all of those capacities, you've turned what is, a list of items on a box, right? GPS, 10 megapixel camera, touch screen, notifications, into something that's so much more beautiful than any of those things could actually describe by themselves. All of a sudden, this device becomes our one of the social pathways into the world around us, and lights up a bunch of things that we would not normally have seen. And it's actually happening all over the world. So Facebook actually has now over 500 million mobile users. And of course, everyone in this room is running around with a mobile phone, but it is certainly not something that's limited to folks who are technology savvy. 90% of our users in Africa use Facebook on a regular basis on their mobile phone, and a lot of them they're mobile phone only. 30% of the people registering every day in India register on their mobile phone, which probably means they only have a mobile phone. And in the US alone, it's been reported, not by us but by a third party, that at peak times, 20% of mobile traffic is Facebook. So there's a tremendous amount of activity around there. And it's happening on devices, not just the Apple iPhone, which probably many of you have, or the Androids. They're happening on low-end devices and high-end devices alike. And it's changing the way people discover, right? So the things that I just talked about are not things that are coming in the future. They're things that already exist. And I'm going to walk you through some examples. So I can see my friend in this example, Eric, just read a book that he's recommending. I can see in this example, Chris has just used a recipe on Foodly and has published that back to the graph. Or in this case, Dave has uploaded his favorite music playlist to Spotify. Or in this case, this is one of my favorites, my friend Justin sharing an outdoor landscape that he likes on Pinterest. Now, those are some of the interactions that you might be a little bit more used to if you've used the Open Graph. We just launched 2 weeks ago something that we call App Center. So you don't just have to rely on that news feed to discover things that are happening around you or things that your friends are doing. You can actually go to the App Center and get social filters, context for apps that are trending. And this is actually even better news for developers, because if you were a developer, up until 2 weeks ago, you had to cross your fingers and pray that you were in the top 20 in the iOS store or the Android store, right? You just had to get placement there. You weren't going to get traffic. In this case, a developer can create a really cool app that's used by 10 people, then used by 20 people, then used by 40 people, then used by 100 people, and get traffic much, much faster. And in fact, that concept is already playing out in some really powerful ways, creating some of the biggest internet companies that we've ever seen. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit. The other thing I wanted to highlight here is that some of my favorite mobile experiences are frankly not ones that exist within the Facebook framework. They're actually examples of where developers have taken Facebook and basically cracked it open and integrated all of these social tools that we have into the phone at a much deeper level, making that device a truly social device. For any of you watching the WWDC launch last week, they talked a lot about their Facebook integration and how they've made the concept of going through the iTunes store or reading something much more social by having it shared immediately back to the graph. Nokia with their Windows Phone has been doing this now for a while, right? Where you log into your contacts, and instead of just names, you have names and faces and last updates. When you log into your calendar, you have your birthdays integrated. I'm like the worst at this. I forget everyone's birthday. Now I don't. It's pretty amazing. And the net from this is that, I should say, for those of you who are looking at using all of this stuff to get the word out on the products that you're building, that this allows for marketing to be rebuilt around people. And again, same story here. It always was, right? But now it is in a new way. And I think marketers are really starting to realize that. And the first sign for me, actually, Levi's did this really, really well. Starbucks is doing it really well as well. Instead of those stock photographs that you see of people smiling or the product looking beautiful, all of those photos that you recognize of a product are being replaced with photos of real people and real products. And these real people and real products are getting embraced by the marketers themselves, because they're realizing, finally, what people have known for a really long time, which is that the best marketing is a really, really good product. One where you walk out of the store or you walk out of that user experience and you love it and you want to tell all of your friends. And digital is now allowing that word of mouth to happen at scale. And mobile is simply accelerating it and allowing it to happen in a much more real-time, much more local way than it's ever happened before. So Starbucks is an example of a company with a really robust customer interaction and page. But again, what I think is even more exciting is the next generation of companies that are getting built in the Valley that are being built social from the ground up. So as these developers are building these products, they're not just thinking about like, how do I push this product, but how do I actually make this a social experience that people want to participate in and want to share? And how do I build in the social hooks that are out there to make it take off like wildfire? And how do I take advantage of the fact that everyone was walking around with a mobile phone in their pocket, and now I'm not limited to 9 to 5. I can reach them at any time, anywhere. And there are some pretty amazing examples, Spotify being the first one of them. Spotify was an Open Graph partner launched with us at F8 last year with incredible results. I'm going to walk you through, if anyone hasn't used it, how it works. So Molly Graham, a friend of mine, opens up her Spotify app and starts listening to some music, in this case, Coldplay song. And she's used Facebook single sign-on to access it. And so when I go and log onto my phone, I can actually see that Molly's listening to this song. And I can click on it, and I can actually have, if I've installed the app already, I can have a shared listening experience with Molly. So I can listen to the same song while she's listening to it, right? And this isn't just true for Molly. This is for anyone who is using Spotify with this integration. And as a result, Spotify, within the first month of launching the Facebook integration, got 7 million new users. And what's really impressive about this is those Facebook users were twice as likely to upgrade to the paid product than a user who was found Spotify in some other way. So there's real power to this, like really, really good customers coming through these channels. My personal favorite example was a company started by a friend, Pinterest, a site that I probably spend way too much of my time on. This is a social pinning site, so you can find, architectural elements that you love, products that you love, recipes that you love, and basically pin them to this beautiful board. They're a Silicon Valley phenomenon. They've actually grown to 10 million users faster than any other company in the history of the internet. And 20% of of the users that are logged in with Facebook return daily. And if anyone here has used, who's here has used Pinterest? Wow, so look at this. I mean, this is a company that started, 9, 12 months ago, and almost everyone in the room just raised their hands, right? They have taken off like wildfire because, in part, because of both a phenomenal product and building viral in from the very beginning. Now, we're asked a lot about mobile monetization, a lot. And I just want to leave you with one thing, which is, again, a great product is your best marketing vehicle. And what we really tell marketers is go and build that great product and get users talking about it, whether it's through really simple integrations or deeper Open Graph integrations like the one I just walked you through. And once you have that organic discussion happening, we now on mobile give you the ability, as well as desktop, give you the ability to take that organic story. Molly, my friend, is listening to a Coldplay song, and we allow Spotify in that case to boost that story in newsfeed. So it's a content that would already normally show up, but now all those marketers can ensure that all of Molly's friends are going to see that story if we think it's a good one. So we're giving marketers a little bit more control, but fundamentally we're actually enhancing the user experience rather than detracting from it. And so with that, I just want to leave you with a couple of things. I think, the web and mobile are being rebuilt around people. Again, this is nothing new. This is actually just what people were doing offline for a very, very long time. But instead of those conversations happening on Monday morning with a coworker across the desk from you, they can happen on a global scale and with friends that you don't get to talk to every day. And it's already changing the way that we discover information, and it will continue to do so at a more rapid pace, with more companies thinking this way and using it to drive the spread of their products. And, my guess is that a lot of you in this room are just like me, and I feel like I'm constantly sprinting. And there's always the next new thing, and there's always the new company or the 16-year-old who's starting a company overnight. And I talk to so many people in the mobile space or marketers who care about creating really great customer interactions. And they talk a lot about the next thing that people are going to be doing. And my advice to them is the same, which is what I would leave you with, which is it's not about starting from scratch and getting people to do something what they wouldn't normally do. It's about looking at existing human behavior, about the fact that I go into Home Depot. I was in Home Depot this last weekend. I couldn't find what I was looking for. I had to ask someone. Having a store map where like I can know where to find the paint is really, really helpful. Look at the existing human behavior and make it easier. And when you do that, people will talk about it and they will share. And if you're smart, you've wired it up correctly, and it's something that people can use on their mobile phone, and you get credit for all of that sharing with not just that one person they want to share with, but with all of their friends. So with that, I will leave you. Thank you.
Alrighty. Whoops. Can you put that back, Christian? Thank you. So I want to re-emphasize something here. I think I talked about this earlier, that we are, again, having a gigantic piñata. And if you weren't here earlier, our friend Jason Wilson here actually never hit the piñata here and landed on his back, which it's on YouTube if you want to look it up. But anyway, what I wanted to let you know is that we are giving away an iPad, an iTouch, Xbox Connect, iPad Nano watch. Did I say Kindle Fire? Well, a lot of different things. But you got to hang out until 5 o'clock to get that. So we are going to have a break at 3 o'clock with cookies and milk and ice cream, lots of sugar to keep you going. With that, I want to bring out our next panel. Let's see here. Privacy is dead. It's a new social contract, and you agreed to it. When I say agreed to it, I really meant, when you see that long scrolling list of different requirements, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you agree to it, well, what are you really signing up for? That's what really this panel's about, and are we giving away our privacy? So with that, I want to introduce Hermione Way, founder of newspepper.com and the Next Web. Also, just a plug here, the Next Web is streaming Social Loco today. So if you want to tune in or tell your friends, that's where it's embedded. So Hermione, please come on out. Hi, do you have a mic? Oh, alrighty.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon. And just before we commence the panel, we're missing a panelist. Where is Owen Thomas? Owen, if you're around, get your butt back here. He's missing. But anyway, good afternoon, everyone. I am Hermione Way. I'm the video director of the Next Web. We're one of the world's largest technology blogs. We have about 7 million uniques a month, and we have about 30 writers worldwide. And in regards to privacy, or privacy, as you say here in America, my life is very, very public. There's not much privacy in my life, so that's quite an interesting standpoint. We'll have to see what our panelists today, where they're at. But let's introduce them first. So help me welcoming Nick Bitchinit. Big round of applause for Nick. He's the CEO of Echo. Nick, you told me to say Bitch and Nick.
Bitch and Niche. The last
Bitch and Niche.
Sadly, it's a Croatian name, which for those of you following Euro 2012 means that we're out. But there you go.
I didn't want to say, but Alex Fowler, who is the Global Privacy and Policy Director at Mozilla. Big round of applause. We have Damien Patton, who is the founder and CEO of Banjo. And Owen Thomas, who is the president of Ditherati. So just before we start, I'd just like to gauge the audience here. So put your hand up if you get somewhat annoyed or upset when Facebook makes its changes to its privacy settings. It's quite a lot of people. Well, in my opinion, you shouldn't be, because you're a user of theirs, and so they should be able to use you. So let's see if our panelists... Yeah, right? Hence the word there, the key word there is user.
But Hermione, it's not UZ, to be fair. You're using Facebook. And what you're saying is that really Facebook is using us.
Yeah, but I use them. That's how I make a large percentage of my revenue, as do you. So, it's a little bit of give each way. But let's let's go down the panel first of all, and just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, And your first answer to the question, is privacy or privacy dead?
So my name is Damien. I run a company called Banjo. Think of us as a social location-based browser so that you can see all of your friends that are around you, including here, as well as perhaps you want to see what's going on in Euro right now, and maybe you have some friends from Croatia that were at the game. You can see them and the rest of the community that are there right now. As far as is privacy dead? No, I don't think privacy is dead. I think that's a bold statement. I think when it comes to location-based products and social products, I think we have a responsibility to respect the privacy, but what does that mean? I think for us to predict what you as users, what your privacy settings is total crap. It's impossible. But at the same coin, we need to give you the choices to set your privacy settings to where you feel most comfortable without you feeling overwhelmed about having to do more settings, if you will. So that would be my answer.
All right, Alex?
So actually, I have a little video that I'd like to show. If we could cue the video, as they say.
Swagger in my step and the honey in my tea. And no, hustle ain't gonna muscle in on me. 'Cause I'm your little peachy pie and you're my sugar pea. People say we look a state, but I think we're a catch. We're not exactly book and say, but nonetheless we match. God forbid, I hope they get your chin.
All right, sorry about the little commercial at the end. So these were, this was a, thanks. So just really quickly, this is Firefox Flicks was at the Cannes Film Festival, and this was one of the winning nominations by one of our users. So let me just say a quick word from a Mozilla perspective about this question of whether privacy is dead. I mean, first of all, I think here in Silicon Valley, when you hear people talking about privacy is dead, that's code for somebody who thinks there's a business model predicated on people's personal information, right? And so, you know, from our perspective, what we're really trying to foster is a world in which instead of investing hundreds of millions of dollars in startups, with the greatest minds that we're generating from our academia to guess what you want and what you like and what you're all about is ridiculous, right? And I think that's sort of this notion that we make these predictive engines, we create ad technology that's meant to target someone based on the cookies that have been placed on a user's machine over time, right? So our perspective, the future is about user sovereignty. A data-driven world is one in which the user is a participant. So that's kind of our point of view.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you who I am or what I do. If you really want to know, you can look that up, but it's stuff to do with location. I will say, however, that for me, the biggest problem is that discussions about privacy are incredibly boring. They're often boring for the people who are involved, and they're certainly boring to hear, and they're very boring to legislate. Because if you make an analogy between driving around in a car and people moving online, discussions about privacy are like discussions about seatbelts and helmets. It's not a particularly exciting thing to do. What you really want to be talking about in this space is roads. We don't even have any roads. We don't know where we're going. The mobile user is such an early stage of the ecosystem. Complicated discussions about privacy are going to kill it. I certainly don't think, in answer to Hermione's original question, that privacy is dead. Because if it was, we wouldn't have curtains and, you know, we'd all shower with the doors open. I don't think many people in the audience do that. So I think what's important about privacy is that we need to help users understand it. And unless we make really simple privacy controls, like Damien was talking about, there's lots of different ways in which we can do this. People are not going to understand it. If they're not going to understand it, they're not going to become less private. They're going to become less relevant. Because if you reduce the ability for people to filter their private information, all they're going to do, they'll still continue to share. They'll just share a bunch of crap. That's it. That's me done.
So I'm a journalist, and these days I'm actually writing for Business Insider. My personal website, Ditherati, has been running since 1997. It's all about things people have said publicly. So, you know, personally, I'm more interested in things people put out voluntarily in the public sphere. There's so much of it. I mean, honestly, I think our problem, more than, you know, any kind of, you know, rampant violation of privacy, is that there's so much out there in public that you never discover. And, you know, at least as a discoverer of information, that's more interesting to me. I do think that I do think that there has been a you know, a seismic shift in privacy, though, and, you know, a generational shift that basically in the Facebook generation, people have gotten much more comfortable with sharing. I think Twitter is also an interesting model where it's just default public, and people behave differently on platforms that are default public versus platforms that are confusingly private and public, like Facebook.
In relation to that, Owen, though, do you think that people understand? Is it okay? Sorry.
Yeah, kick in.
Do you think that people understand, like, say, for example, the Facebook privacy question? When Facebook makes changes, whether you're the user or the usee, the issue is, do the majority of the normals, or whatever derogatory term we all like to call people who actually we make money on, do they understand the changes and the implications of those changes?
I mean, almost certainly not. There's a website called youropenbook.org, which does nothing but provide a search engine for public Facebook updates, almost certainly updates that weren't intentionally made public. And I think that I think that a lot of people are kind of practicing a personal security through obscurity. Like, no one will ever find this thing, and yet, you know, computers make it very easy to crunch through mass amounts of public data and find, like, that one, you know, that one tweet. I remember writing, I apologize, I don't recall the circumstances, but I remember writing a story about some event in the news and finding a Facebook status update from some young woman who took issue with the fact that I quoted her. And it was like, well, you talked about this publicly. You made your status update publicly. And her reaction was basically, well, I never expected anyone to actually read it. And, you know, I was kind of at a loss. You know, what do you say to that?
I would say that I'm a digital immigrant. You know, I publicly decided 4 years ago that I was going to live my life online, and part of that was I decided that I had to act personally like a newspaper, so I had to give myself an editorial. But what about for the digital natives? You know, the kids that are 3 or 4 years old, and this is a part of their upbringing. Do they have to give themselves an editorial? How do you protect them?
Well, so I think so. I was just having this conversation actually with a friend who has 2 teenage boys, and it was fascinating because he was talking about, so one of the boys is about to go to college, the other is I guess a second or third year student in high school, and he was saying among all of these boys' friends, they browse the internet with Ghostery and AdBlock Plus turned on at all times, and he said that their view of the world is that they are being assaulted by commercial interests. So they feel that it's completely legitimate for them to prevent third parties from placing ads, and this is a way that they can have some independence and power as they browse the net. Right. There have also been a lot of studies that talk about guerrilla tactics. Right. And you mentioned that if we get the trust model wrong, then we all lie and we provide false information to the service providers, and everybody gets a worse experience, right? So, I mean, this has been quantified. There have been studies that show that people take guerrilla tactics, provide the wrong birth date, or have a unique email address that they use to sign up for all the different newsletters that they subscribe to, et cetera, right? Because they don't ultimately trust that the information they provide is under their control, right? And so just one quick distinction I think is important to note, and maybe this is where I'll give a little bit in terms of the title of this panel. I think there is a generational shift happening, and I think that the notion of privacy that is most embattled, may be dead, is this idea of the commercial intrusion into your private life, right? So there are multiple dimensions of privacy. There's privacy about choice and control and being transparent. about what you're doing with their information. But there's also this notion of, I don't want this intrusion from commercial interests, acting in their self-interest against mine, right? And I think to a certain extent, we're seeing that is much more difficult today, right? The idea that you can really isolate yourself from commercialism in society, right? And so I think maybe from that perspective, that sort of sense of privacy is dying.
You mean give up your privacy and you basically get paid to walk around and give off data and be you?
Well, that we walk around, we've got, branded clothing, and we're seeing commercial, sort of like the video, that we're seeing more and more of that type of commercial messaging that's directed to us as individuals.
But I don't think it's just attacks and assaults from advertising. It's physical worry for young people, because I was doing a little bit of research about the panel and I was typing into Google, attacks due to location-based data. And there's like three pages of news stories of girls being raped from guys finding out their location on Facebook or on apps like Banjo. So whose job is it to protect? Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it was actually Scout.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
I said apps
So
like
first
Banjo.
of all, So that's complete bullshit.
Apps like Banjo.
Yeah, but even Facebook. Let's just get realistic right now. You said you found seven pages of information online where people have been attacked because of Facebook, and
Location data.
Location data from Facebook, and the reality of it is I don't know whether that's true or not, but there are deviants and weird people all over the world, and I'm sure more people have been harmed during the time Facebook has been around from the Catholic Church than they have been from Facebook. So, I think it's just a little bit easy to jump on the bandwagon and just start clubbing Facebook to death. Think about all the great things that Facebook has given us and other location-based services. And a couple of these incidents, that if they do occur, while horrific, and I agree, they occur in our everyday life amongst other things that are not. But again, if it's about protecting people's privacy and their location, we should give users control to do that.
Again, what about the government? What is the government doing where is the government's position in this? Because it seems to me like the government's on two sides. So on one side you have, Facebook selling data to the CIA. On the other side you have the FTC trying to put pressure on Congress to pass a law that would mean citizens would be able to adopt a don't track button. So it seems to me that Congress is on two sides. What do you guys think?
The congressmen that are making these decisions, print out their emails. You got to think about, who you're dealing with here. As it happens,
you presume they have email, which is even
true, yeah.
Well, the email gets stuck in the tube, so they never get it in the first place.
The tube that Al Gore invented.
Yes.
So as it happens, I've testified in front of the U.S. Senate, not about privacy, but about something entirely different. But I can tell you my experiences there were very strange in the sense that a lot of the lawmakers in not just this country, but in any large modern organizations are quite behind the times. They're still legislating stuff that happened a few years ago. So I think it's actually our responsibility, everyone on this panel and many people in this room, to lead the charge as to define what's going on here. But I will say one quick thing about privacy. I actually think that in some instances, people are becoming more private. It's just the privacy is manifesting in a slightly different way. And it's like you said it yourself when you talked about editorial. People are actually able to editorialize their privacy. They're able to pick which pictures to share, what status updates to make. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be that when you hung out socially, you were just, whatever you said, people would hear. And of course, you could choose not to speak. But in this particular case, I know quite a lot of people who craft their online digital personality on a regular basis. And even though it might be fake or it might be skewed a little bit, it's still something that they spend a long time maintaining. So in a way, by being more public, they get to shape their personality more. They pay a lot more attention to what they're digitally broadcasting.
But the problem is we're moving to a digital economy where our working lives and our personal lives are our online identity. And if you don't want to share and if you opt out of that, do you exist? Are you able to make revenue 10, 20 years time? What do you do? Are you able to opt out and still live a life?
Well, I think you've pointed out that if you weren't online, you'd be completely irrelevant. and that's the life that you've chosen, right? But I mean, back to your point earlier about the kids, I mean, kids aren't going to, the generations that are coming up now, they're not going to remember when social wasn't part of everything that we do in our everyday lives, from shopping to going to the movies to hanging out with friends to where we're going to go travel. It's just, and what they decide to opt out of, as you're mentioning, that ad programs like a disconnect me to keep third parties from bantering us. That's very different though from us leading our lives online in a different way, right?
So it might be a bit like when I was growing up, I remember there were some parents that didn't let their kids watch TV. So, we'd be off discussing whatever the latest episode was of 90210, and I mean the original 90210, like the Jason Priestley one, I'm sure you all remember. Anyway, and of course the kids that didn't watch TV wouldn't participate in these discussions because they tried to, and they'd pretend that they saw it, but actually they didn't see it.
They're the ones that just got the $10 million seed round to go start a startup.
There you go, yeah. So it's quite possible that just not participating in online social will be the modern day version of the parents not allowing you to participate in some form of media. But eventually, everyone will do it one way or another if they don't already.
Well, I think to get back to the question of government too, and I think it's interesting to have you here because, I mean, during the Kosovo crisis, it was one of the first times we saw government being able to actually monitor web communications from people in the region with their family and relatives and community outside, right? And one of the things that was really striking about that were the ability, in the sense, for the government to be able to actually send the troops over to particular houses or to shut down particular news outlets and so forth because of what the web communications were. And I think with the Arab Spring, we saw this as well, right? So in a sense, there are things like location privacy, communications through mobile devices, etc., that in the case of countries where you have oppressive regimes can be about losing lives. And so, privacy in that context is about how do you enable anonymous communication, how do you allow for a web standard where the user has the ability to know that their communications are secure. And that's incredibly important too.
Who should be answering these questions? Is it Obama or is it Mark Zuckerberg?
I think absolutely both. I mean, I think that those companies that have platforms that are being used around the world have a responsibility to those users to make sure that they're on the back end, not passing along that user information to any government who would like to know what's happening to those particular users. So, yeah, I think for major platforms, like, they can't pretend that they're all about the open web and enabling communication between people when it suits their needs, but then at the back end where there are real potential risks to those individuals, not really protecting them in the same way.
But I think it's hard, right? I mean, these guys are pioneers. I mean, we're all pioneers to some extent in what we're doing right now, and so it's not like there's a roadmap that tells us what, you have to choose your own moral compass, but at the end of the day, it goes beyond that, right? I mean, you're trying to provide value to people, and at the end of the day, sometimes you hit a tipping point, and you have to recognize that tipping point. But there's nothing to tell us before we get there, have we gone too far?
So I really disagree with that strongly. I think, on the notion of privacy, we've got over 20 years of web-based desktop privacy experience. We all add privacy policies. We know some of the basic best practices, right? So I don't think it's enough to say, I'm trying to scale a business, I've got this, I'm pioneering something new, so I'll leave privacy off the table now. I know you're not saying that, but to me that's the implication, that I'll leave this to some other point when I've hit the tipping point, I'll retrofit in these types of...
By the way, that exact implication is actually something that I've heard echoed from certain aspects of the investment community in the Valley to fast-growing consumer startups. Forget privacy, grow fast. So I'm not surprised that comes up as an undertone. It's certainly something that young entrepreneurs have to struggle with.
Right, and I think it's a lot more, so I spent a lot of years actually as a consultant to companies when they hit that tipping point, and they'd hire an expensive consultant to come in and try to retrofit it in. And I can tell you it's very, very disruptive and much, much more complicated. Once you have data and you don't need it, it's a lot harder to get rid of it, a lot harder to change your architecture. It's not that complicated to ask some basic questions about what the information architecture needs to be, how it supports your business model, bring your users along with that, and then design in a way where you're transparent about, as your business model changes, you're going to need to explain that. I think there are a lot of common sense dimensions to it, but I don't think it's enough to say we'll leave it to.
I didn't say we would leave it. What I said is it's easy to jump on these companies and say that they've gone too far when they're trying to provide a value and they're trying to measure what is too far, right? I'm not saying they've put privacy on the table. God knows at Banjo, we've put privacy first many times. And because of that, we've suffered from user traction standpoint. I mean, you and I talked about this in depth last time. We saw that we were going to lose a massive amount of users if we did put in these privacy things, and we chose privacy over that. But that's not to say that we were right or we were wrong if someone else had chosen the other way, because I just think that it's easy for us to sit here and judge these other companies, and it's hard on the other side. That's all I'm saying is it's hard. Now, if they're blatantly making the choice you are, like screw privacy, and we're just going to go full ahead and the hell with the tipping point.
People don't care. We'll
right.
just get there.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
But I think there's privacy and there's annoyance, right? I mean, a lot of what, say, Vidi or SocialCam do with their, the viral spam that infects your Facebook newsfeed, it's just annoying. I mean, Banjo has annoyed me personally. I mean, that it hasn't violated my privacy because it's a friend annoying me, but I think that's much more the issue. Is do we bother our friends? Do we overshare? I don't see a lot of startups going out and like you say, they're not violating privacy. They are violating social norms, though, perhaps.
They're chasing a Series A is what they're doing.
Well,
yeah.
I saw a lot of heads nodding when you said people are oversharing. So I don't know, maybe that sort of struck a chord.
No, you're telling me to end the panel, right? But we started 10 minutes late. Can we go for 10 more minutes?
Come on, fight for us.
5 more minutes? She's saying. All right, well, one last point then. Yeah? Okay, good. All right, so I think the problem here is ultimately it's confusing for the end user. When you like something on Facebook, that actually gives Facebook legal control to follow you from the Wall Street Journal to TechCrunch to the next web to wherever you may be going on your entire journey. And I think that's what the fuss is about. That's what the anger is about. Users feel confused. I know I've stopped watching social cam videos because there's an app called Social Cam and it tracks everything you watch. And my friends have been like, "Hey, did you watch that video last night?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Were you drunk?" And I was like, "Yes, but crap." Like everyone saw that I watched that video. So I'm actually, I'm an early adopter. I use everything, but I'm actually starting to take a step away and not watch naughty stuff online anymore.
I don't even like photos on Instagram because it shows up in my feed. I don't want to broadcast that.
Exactly, but my final question to you guys is: what are the rules that need to be written over the next 5 years for the consumer to have an easier journey?
Like I started off this conversation with, it's all about giving the user the control. There's no way that we can predict what each and every individual in this room, what their set of privacy is. It's just not possible. So it's about finding the right balance between giving the user control over their privacy and not making it so daunting that they just don't even want to bother because it's such a pain in the ass to find. So it's a blend between good UI, good UX, and giving users control to shape their own privacy direction in the next 5 years. I mean, who are we to sit up here and say, this is what the privacy direction in the next 5 years are to be? I don't know what everybody out there is thinking, and even if you queued this room, there's a lot of other people in the world, different cultures, different demographics that you have to consider. Give the user control.
Brilliant.
Couldn't have said it better. +1.
All right. They're kicking us off, so big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's okay. All right. If there's any session that could go over and be that interesting, this is the one. So thank you, everyone. So we have a presentation, a short product introduction coming up right now. As they're setting up, I just want to take a minute and single out Edelman for doing such a tremendous job with supporting us over the last couple of years and running everything here at the show with the press. Thank you very much. And did I mention Edelman? They're doing a great job. I thought I had enough time for that. The other thing I wanted to announce again, and tell me if I'm talking too much about this, of course, is the piñata. So stick around for the piñata, but also the cookies and the milk and everything at 3 o'clock. We actually have another product announcement that you won't want to miss just prior to the break with the sugar. Yay! All right. Go ahead.
My name is Sam. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Aloha Mobile. Before I start, I want to thank Mark Evans for organizing this great conference. Just a little bit of story. Actually, I met my co-founder right here in GeoLocal 2 years ago. That's when we started Aloha Mobile. So I really want to thank Mark for organizing this wonderful conference. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been there. So 2 years later, we're launching our conference right here at Social Local. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Aloha Mobile, we build smarter applications on mobile phones using a persistent sensing technology. Just imagine your mobile phone can become your best friend. It can check traffic automatically before your next meeting. You know, it can detect a car crash automatically when you're driving on 280. Basically, you know, we want to build a system that can help you before you even ask. So let me do a quick demo on my iPhone. Chris? Yes, this is an application we're launching today on iPhone. It's called Place Me. Once you install it, it runs in the background automatically. I'm showing my life on Black Friday when I'm running around in Palo Alto. So you can see I visited a number of electronic stores, Best Buy at midnight, then Fry's, had lunch at Sushi 85. And all of this are captured automatically using our persistent sensing technology. It understands just a few minutes I enter the Walmart, the system can detect that. It knows how long I stay there. We're using a bunch of different signals to detect all of this. So you don't have to manually check in. Let me switch back to the slides. Chris? Yeah, the idea is no manual check-in. Everything is automatic. We see, manual check-in is too tedious. People are always busy. We just want to automate it. The way we do it is by using persistent ambient sensing. We look at a lot of sensors on the phone, GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, your motion sensor. Automatically detect, how fast you're moving, which direction you're moving at, when you slow down. So we can detect automatically, your walking mode, your driving mode, when you enter the store, when you are having lunch at a restaurant. We're providing this through a open API. We provide 3 basic features. Number 1, automatic place detection. A few minutes you arrive at Best Buy, we can detect that and generate an event. And we can also detect automatically when you leave the place. Secondly, we manage the battery consumption. We all know that GPS is extremely power hungry. So we build this adaptive sampling algorithm so that it only turns on GPS when we need to. When you're having a conference here for 2 hours, there's no point to sample GPS. But when you leave the building, we detect your motion change, your speed change, the Wi-Fi environment change. Then we turn on GPS. Also, when you're driving on 280 at 80 miles an hour, there's no point to sample GPS every second. So we build that into the system so that it doesn't consume as much power. Number 3, we can detect your motion mode, whether you are walking or driving or sitting there stationary. So you can imagine all kinds of smart applications can be built on top of this platform. Mobile fitness apps, mobile shopping. The most exciting thing would be a smart personal assistant. Basically, it's always persistently context aware. It knows when you're shopping or when you're sleeping, right? It doesn't need to give you a coupon when you're sleeping. So based on this, it can predict what you're going to do in the next hour or the next day. So then it can perform ambient search. You don't have to enter the keyword to search for something. It just knows what you're going to do in the next hour and try to search for things for you. So we're launching this Place Me application on iPhone today. A good thing about it is we also integrated with Evernote. So Evernote tries to remember everything, but the one thing they don't remember very well is places. So we integrate this system with Evernote, so that every evening it automatically put your timeline into your Evernote system if you want to authenticate with Evernote. The second thing is the SDK. As I described, we are looking for developers to build all kinds of smart applications on top of this SDK. So you can check it out at aloha.com and build your own smart apps. Thank you.